Have you ever wondered how the Israel-Palestine conflict, one of the world's longest ongoing political disputes, began? To understand, we need to start from the beginning, in a land known as Palestine, nestled along the eastern Mediterranean Sea, a land rich in history and cultural diversity. The late 19th to early 20th century marked a significant shift in the region's demographics. This period saw the emergence of the Zionist movement, a national movement of the Jewish people that aspired to re-establish a Jewish homeland in the territory defined as the historic land of Israel. Jewish immigration to Palestine surged, sparking tensions with the existing Arab population who had been living there for centuries. Meanwhile, the world stage was shifting. World War I was reshaping borders and causing empires to crumble. The Ottoman Empire, which had ruled over Palestine, was among the fallen. In the aftermath, Britain took control of Palestine under a League of Nations mandate. But the British had made a promise during the war that would have profound implications for the region. This promise, known as the Balfour Declaration, expressed Britain's support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. But it also stated that nothing should be done to prejudice the rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine. In essence, Britain was promising the same land to two different groups, the Jews and the Arabs. This double commitment stoked the flames of conflict. Jewish-Arab tensions escalated, marked by periodic bouts of violence. The British found themselves in an increasingly untenable position, trying to balance the aspirations and rights of both Jews and Arabs in a land both claimed as their own. So, as the world moved towards the middle of the 20th century, the seeds of conflict had been sown in this small piece of land known as Palestine, a land claimed by two peoples. The stage was set for a conflict that would shape the Middle East and the world at large. Following World War II, the conflict took a dramatic turn with the birth of Israel. The horrors of the Holocaust led to an increase in Jewish immigration to Palestine, as survivors sought refuge from the atrocities they had faced. This migration spurred international sympathy and support for the establishment of a Jewish state. The United Nations, in an attempt to quell the rising tensions, proposed a partition plan in 1947. This plan aimed to divide Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states, with Jerusalem under international administration. However, the Arab states rejected this plan, arguing it violated the rights of the majority Arab population in Palestine. Despite this rejection, on May 14, 1948, the State of Israel was declared. This declaration was met with immediate recognition by the United States and the Soviet Union. But on the other side of the coin, it was met with vehement opposition from the neighboring Arab states. They saw the creation of Israel as a direct affront to the Arab majority residing in Palestine. This opposition escalated into the First Arab-Israeli War, which began the very next day after Israel's declaration of independence. Armies from Egypt, Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, and Iraq invaded the newly formed state, marking the beginning of widespread and prolonged conflict. The war raged on for approximately 10 months, with both sides suffering significant casualties. However, when the armistice agreements were signed in 1949, Israel had not only managed to defend its sovereignty, but also expanded its territory beyond the UN partition plan's proposed borders. This victory, however, was a double-edged sword. While it solidified Israel's existence, it simultaneously intensified the resentment and frustration among the Arab states and the Palestinian population. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians had been displaced during the war, creating a refugee crisis that further fueled the conflict. With the dust of war settling, the map had changed, but the conflict was far from over. The birth of Israel and the escalation of tensions was just the beginning of a complex and deeply rooted conflict that continues to shape the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East today. The following decades saw a series of wars and uprisings that further inflamed the Israel-Palestine conflict. The saga of conflict and strife continued to unfold, with the Six-Day War of 1967 playing a pivotal role. This war saw Israel capturing the Gaza Strip and the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt, the West Bank and East Jerusalem from Jordan, and the Golan Heights from Syria. This victory significantly expanded Israel's territory and intensified the geopolitical tension in the region. 5 years later, in 1973, the Yom Kippur War occurred. Egypt and Syria launched a coordinated attack on Israel on a significant Jewish holiday, Yom Kippur. Although the war ended in a military stalemate, it left deep scars on both sides and fueled a sense of insecurity and enmity in the region. In the heart of this conflict were the Palestinian uprisings, or intifadas. These widespread protests and acts of civil disobedience by Palestinians sought to end Israel's occupation. The First Intifada, which started in 1987, and the Second Intifada, which erupted in 2000, were marked by widespread violence, including suicide bombings and military operations. Various Palestinian factions played crucial roles in these uprisings. Fatah, under the leadership of Yasser Arafat, and Hamas, an Islamist organization, became prominent actors. Their differing ideologies and strategies added another layer of complexity to an already intricate conflict. The toll of these wars and intifadas on everyday life was immense. Families on both sides lived in a constant state of fear and insecurity. The loss of loved ones, the destruction of homes, and the disruption of economic activities became common narratives. The very fabric of society seemed to be tearing at the seams, with hatred and mistrust seeping into the hearts of even the most peace-loving individuals. The result was a vicious cycle of violence and retaliation, with both sides blaming the other for the continuing conflict. Every act of aggression was met with another, and each retaliation led to further escalation. A cycle of violence and retaliation seemed to have taken hold, with peace appearing elusive. Despite the turbulence, attempts at peace have been made over the years. The Oslo Accords of the early 90s, for example, were a significant stride towards reconciliation. They proposed a two-state solution, envisioning independent Israeli and Palestinian states living side by side in harmony. Yet the road to peace has been anything but smooth. Israeli settlements continue to crop up in disputed territories, creating hotbeds of tension. The status of Jerusalem, a city sacred to many faiths, remains a contentious issue. Additionally, the right of return for Palestinian refugees who were displaced during the conflict hangs in the balance. Today, the situation remains delicate. Progress has been made, yes, but old wounds still fester and new conflicts continually arise. The two-state solution, while attractive in theory, is increasingly difficult to implement in practice. The path to peace remains fraught with challenges, but the hope for a resolution endures.